This Fächerfliquetta.
This is Joe Cole.
This is Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and you're listening to the
London is Blue podcast.
All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, your host, Brandon, joined by my co-hosts, Nick and Dan. That is right. I said Dan.
Who is that again?
Disney
Take 1
Dan.
week off. 1 week off.
1
6
week off.
pods is the equivalent of 1 week off.
It's like dog years. It's the way it works with our podcast recording schedule. It's essentially how it is. But yeah, it's good to be back. You're talking about a win, Nick, a win over Tottenham, but it's kind of like business as usual. So I don't know. I feel like we could have just taken the first one that Tuchel had and played over this one.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this in the preview last week. I mean, the Premier League era, they are no match for us, and we're certainly no match for us today. So, yep, business as usual.
That's right. So it is going to be the Tottenham Hotspur match review. Going to be talking about the drubbing for Tottenham that they took away to Chelsea. And what we're going to be talking about is Tuchel's latest tactical masterclass, how he set up for this. Obviously, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. He definitely had to earn it today. Defense does it all. I'm going to keep predicting 1 goals against, because clearly that is what is keeping this shutout streak alive. And then it's actually exciting that Nick jumped on with Rick Glanville. That's the exciting part. What is not exciting is that they're talking about the late Jimmy Greaves, who just passed away on Sunday as we're recording. But it's an amazing opportunity to have the official club historian talk about one of the greatest players in the club's history, again, as we talk about educating. So really looking forward to that. So let's go ahead and get a temp check on everybody, see how we're doing with the patented 3-word match review. Dan, over to you.
It's good to be back doing these. And I want to say a new thing that people are doing is they're attaching images as well, which is absolutely
evolved.
100% influencing my decisions in terms of 3-word match reviews. But we had Jay Samek with the second half savior, but it's Tuchel face photoshopped over they had me in the first half, which just killed me.
That's great.
Jeremy with the increased shooting stats, and it's Rüdiger with his new FIFA card, which he had some concerns about regarding pace. And we can
75 pace? Are you
ridiculous.
fucking kidding me?
Well, especially after being like the second fastest player in the Euros or whatever it was. I mean, like, there's tangible data for that.
FIFA.
Hashtag
Look,
hustle.
again, Lukaku had it right a couple years ago. It's just there to stir up controversy. He had the tweet right. Trey with the Spurs rude with a umlaut, awakening. Brittany with the unstoppable, unplayable, determined. Ginny with the Thiago freaking Silva. Joe with the it was inevitable. Our friend Rick Glanville, who you hear later in the episode, with 3-point lane, or we're going to go 3-point toilet now. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's our house. Josh Clark with the Rüdiger twerk gif in the 71st minute, which was quite magical. Janique with the attack with defense. And then Nick Pepe with the Thiago transcends time.
Wow. That image is worth 1,000 words, 1,000 like adjectives. It's too much for me. I put Banter Football Club. Spurs are hilarious. Like, honestly, them booing Alonso, every time he gets it, which you expect. But again, the man's won more than their entire club. So banter Football Club. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, I was kind of between a couple of things. I've been with this burn the tree thing lately, but I think I've overcooked that a bit. I went with should have been 7. Because that's how many goals that Chelsea should have scored in the second half. 7.
These are all good. I went with Nuno Net Zero because we heard all the news about the carbon neutral footballing event, and it was not a good day out for the new Spurs manager.
Nope. But as I kind of talked about in the preview, I think we're going to put them back to where they really should be, the top of the table. Come on. That was never a real thing. All right. So let's give them a little bit of dose of reality. Before we get into it, a huge thank you to C, who subscribed on Patreon, so I'll be getting a message over to you. Welcome to the club, already on Discord, love that. And Dan, as you return, so do apparently the Apple Podcast reviews.
Yeah, we had 8 of them. Want to thank Yo Loop from the U.S., Boku Mon from the U.S., Celery from Australia, who called us the Sistine Chapel of podcasts, which was very nice to see. CK Ceramics from the U.S., Chelsea Girl SD from the U.S., Ollie and Z from New Zealand talked about listening to us while he does his farming, which was super cool. Gaza, Keep the Blue Flag Flying High from the United States, and Colsey Jr. from the UK. Thank you all for leaving wonderful 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. Do it now if you haven't done it already. Just, in the app. Very easy. 5 stars. Say nice things. Continue to say nice things about Nick, because that's apparently the current trend of podcast reviews. It's really nice.
Big fan of that.
Super random today. As I was leaving to head out to go watch the game, actually, I went out and there's a guy wearing the new Chelsea kit on a bike. And I gave him a shout out. I was like, hey, man, nice kit. And he was on his way to Brits with his buddy to go watch the game. And it was a really cool thing to see, because I was just in my daily life, not going out looking for it. And you're starting to see these Chelsea kits and stuff around. So anyways, it was just a fun way to start the day before the match. I was just in a really good mood pre-match about that. And so I love seeing the Chelsea kits, new and old, around town. And look, Minneapolis is blue. Maybe we should just go ahead and say that as well. Just a thought.
Correct. They certainly aren't purple, that's for sure.
Ooh.
What's a kicker? Anyways, NFL reference, sorry. All right, so it was Tottenham Hotspur this past Sunday, the 19th of September, in the Premier League at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, a.k.a. the Toilet Bowl. Scoreline, Spurs 0, Chelsea 3, in case you missed it. All right, lineup time, Dan. Let's see if you can do this in one breath like you used to.
Well, it was Kepa Arrizabalaga in between the sticks for Mendy, who was out injured. It was Antonio Rüdiger, Andreas Christensen, and Thiago Silva as the back three, Marcus Alonso, Jorginho, Mateo Kovacic, and Cesar Azpilicueta as your midfield, with a forward lineup including Romelu Lukaku, Mason Mount, and Kai Havertz, both of them whom ended up getting subbed off for N'Golo Kante and Timo Werner. Unused substitutes included Marcus Bettinelli, which almost looked like for a moment he might make it on, Trevor Chalobah, Ben Chilwell, Reece James, Saul Nunez, Hakim Ziyech, and then Callum Hudson-Odoi, all on the bench as unused subs.
You did well. I think there was a half breath in between there, so I'll give that one to you. Some of the top line match stats from this one are as follows. Chelsea with essentially 3% possession. We had 20 shots, 10 of them on target, to Spurs' 8 shots, only 2 on target. They had 20 tackles to our 15. Assume that because we had more possession. They had 23 clearances to our 19. They had 5 corners to our 11. We only had 1 offside. Take that. That used to be a huge problem for us. We had the single caution, which actually was hilarious that it was Timo Werner who got it after being on the pitch for about 5 minutes. And then we conceded 15 fouls to their 4, which I was kind of fun. I love kicking the shit out of them today. They're super whiny and soft. So enjoy that. XG was Chelsea with a 2.59, Spurs with a 0.71. Obviously, it was 3-0. Nick, a lot of stuff to break down out of that, but you still have your end pet shithouse moment of the match.
Yeah, that is correct. There are a lot of moments out of this match that could have been the end pet shithouse moment of the match. The official stat for all of us who hate XG, I look at a couple, the Rüdiger tweak or twerk thing that we referenced earlier was great, but it has to be him scoring at the end of the match and scoring like a striker. He pulls back like a striker and finishes in the bottom quarter. And with the amount of chances that we had in the second half from forward players who did not score, it was great that he really put the final nail in the coffin there. So Rüdiger again. 3 weeks running.
Brandon, how would you describe the goal celebration from one Antonio Rüdiger?
Shithousery. I mean, he's got to be sitting there going, Timo, come on. Why am I scoring the third here? This should be the 5th or 6th, as you guys mentioned earlier. I think there's going to be some banter in the locker room a little bit about that, but Timo honestly needs to figure out what is going on. Not a day for the Germans until Rüdiger saved it.
God assist. It's cute. It's cute when it comes from Azpilicueta, man.
Yeah. A couple stats to tee this one up again. So Naz, our friend at goal.com, said Chelsea are unbeaten in 7 matches this season. That is good. They've also won 6 away London League derbies in a row. That is also good. It's the first time in the club's history. It is also the first time Chelsea have won away at Arsenal and Tottenham for 10 years, which is horrifying.
Yeah, that was the one that I was looking at Naz's tweet, and it just blew my mind a little bit. But then I rolled it back, and I was like, oh, yeah. There's some really terrible draws and some really unfortunate losses. And so credit to Tuchel, and we'll talk about him ad nauseum for breaking a little bit of hoodoo going on.
Yeah, again, that tweet started strong and ended not so strong, but we broke it. So then Squawk it tweeting, Chelsea have now kept more clean sheets, 15, than they have conceded goals, 14 in the Premier League under Thomas Tuchel. More clean sheets than goals conceded is a hell of a stat, Nick.
Take out the 5 from West Brom last year, and there's a real number in there. It's just insane at this point. I mean, this defense is just so on it. And even though they faced a little bit of pressure in this game, especially early, they didn't really look like breaking down. So, I mean, it's just a huge credit to the way they're set up.
Yeah, I mean, Spurs broke through a couple times, but just, nothing really there, especially at the end. So all I think is fair at the end of it. Hey, we're going to take a real quick break. When we get back, we're going to be jumping right into Tuchel, the latest tactical masterclass and what he did to set up the team. So thanks to sponsors for financially supporting the show. We'll be right back. All right, Nick, what a boring week ahead of us. Only 5 pods.
It's a 5-pod week. There's too much happening. You're obviously listening to this on the Monday. We have a Matt Law special. That's right. The man, the myth, the legend is back on Tuesday. We have a Chelsea women's mailbag on Wednesday, which will include a little bit of Manchester United preview for the weekend, so get involved there. We have a Villa match review for the League Cup on Thursday, and then a Man City preview on Friday as if you hadn't had enough for the week. So lots going on. Just keep racking up those pod listens and keep leaving us 5 stars.
All right. Well, let's go ahead, like I said, and dive into one of our first talking points this one. And it was Tuchel's latest tactical masterclass. So Chelsea got it done versus Tottenham, and Blues remain undefeated in the Premier League and currently sit atop the table, but it didn't look too easy in the first half. However, Tuchel's changes both in personnel and formation helped enable the players to collect the dub. So again, Nick, probably first, I say between 20 and 30 minutes, right? Spurs, a lot of press, a lot of energy, making it chaotic. I think that was probably when a lot of the people in the Discord were freaking out a little bit, unhappy with how it was going. I had said, look, I don't think Spurs are going to be able to maintain this, but they were making it difficult. Like I said, probably no more than 30 minutes in the first half.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, they came out with a ton of energy. I mean, it was obviously an emotionally charged day. It's a London derby anyway. You add in the fact that these two teams don't like each other, usually have a pretty physical match, and you add on top of that it's a little extra emotional with the passing of Jimmy Greaves ahead of the match, who played for both Chelsea and Tottenham. There's just a lot flying around here, and they came out with a ton of energy and enthusiasm and pressing. And I think to your point, we knew that they played on Thursday and we last played on Tuesday. So our boys looked rusty. They didn't look like they could connect a pass to save their lives. The formation was getting pulled all over the place, and Spurs had an advantage in midfield. And it was, this has not happened for the first time this year either. I mean, Chelsea's double pivot got a little overwhelmed. Jorginho got pulled out, which was kind of a recipe for disaster. But even then, even with all the positives that Spurs were bringing to the game for their side, it didn't really look like breaking us down. I think this was just, for me, Dan, this is, a very hearty effort, but not a whole lot of end product.
It was, expected. You talk about this UEFA Conference League that is going to, as long as Spurs are in it, is going to wreak havoc. Again, they did have a 2-2 draw with Rennes, so and one of their goals was their own goal too, so it wasn't necessarily a performance that they're going to want to look back on too fondly. In general, you found yourself thinking that this is just the way Chelsea can get it done. Even though it wasn't pretty, it wasn't the perfect start to a match, we were able to just continue to weather the storm. And it wasn't until the mid 60th minutes, the 68th minute, where Harry Kane actually had a shot on, a shot.
64th minute. I wrote it down in my diary. I said, Harry Kane told me a funny joke today. He pretended to take a shot.
But yeah, it's it makes me so happy that we have Thomas Tuchel as our manager because, similar to, I think, like the NFL, like there are teams where just the coach is so good that even in down years with personnel or trying to embed new players or update a system, they can find ways to help their team on the pitch, even in tough moments, elevate the quality of a result, Brandon, and that's what we saw happen today.
There's a famous quote out there: a good coach can make a team 10% better, and a bad one can make them 30% worse. Thomas Tuchel has made Chelsea 10% better, guaranteed.
Probably more than that. Dan, why was there another coach that you were thinking of that you just had maybe off the top of your head as you said that?
I mean, there's a lot of good coaches. I mean, Sean Payton with Jameis, at least in the first game of the season here. I mean, Belichick maybe is one who's done it. Really,
ding, ding, ding.
I mean, it'd be another one.
Oh, I love it. So yeah, first half, I think some of the player performances probably let it down a little bit. The formation wasn't working, so I think we're all ready for second half, right? Halftime, let's see what happens. We know we're going to get something out of Tuchel. And what we got was one N'Golo Kante for 45 minutes. Took off Mount, put N'Golo on, so you assume it was a 3-5-2 at that point. And we have some heat maps, right? Some breakdowns here from Yash or Odriotholite. I think she's Spanish as well, so that's I'm trying to nail it, but I didn't. Said N'Golo Kante versus Tottenham Hotspur. Kante's introduction was the game changer in a lot of ways for Chelsea. He helped Chelsea deal with Tottenham's press and helped them not get outnumbered in the midfield. He also helped Chelsea press better. But the thing is, like, Nick, N'Golo Kante, it doesn't matter where you put him. It doesn't really matter what formation you put him in. Like, we knew he was going to go destroy. Like, we knew he was going to break up play. We knew he was going to be high energy. He looked healthy, which is good, right? Maybe they need to limit his minutes to help. But he looked at 100%, and the goal is just the most amazing cherry on top of everything.
Yeah, look, I mean, it was this is an interesting formation, right? We have not seen Jorginho, Kovacic, and Kante play together since early Lampard days on the pitch, really, and that was in a 4-3-3 setup. So I was very curious to see how this 3-5-2 would work compared to the 3-4-2-1, and it worked like a charm. I mean, N'Golo was a little bit more advanced, but was able to cover back. He was definitely played on the right side rather than the left, where Kovacic kind of slotted over. And then Jorginho was back to help kind of link play between defense and attack. And I thought it worked like a charm. I mean, N'Golo straight away, within like 2 minutes of being on the pitch, nutmegged a Spurs player. And I was like, all right, well, he's back, folks. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And look, I mean, he's a fucking cheat code, man.
Tuchel literally said that too.
He
knows it.
He is just a cheat code. Like the amount of ball recoveries, interceptions, pressing that he does to make an opposition player feel uncomfortable and to do something stupid is crazy. Then you look at his progressive game today. He was allowed to get forward a little bit more, to be more free. I mean, they show his progressive passes, and he has, I think, 5 progressive passes that were counted today. I mean, it's just, to me, I think he's just such a valuable player. And I tweeted this after the game that, like, we get lost, and I think, in who's ruling the moment at Chelsea. He's still our best player, man. Okay? He's just still our best player. And you don't realize how much you've missed him, Dan, until you see him back out there, and you're like, oh yeah, this is what made us champions of Europe. This guy.
Well, and it's nice to see that we can make our way through matches without having him, so we can conserve those minutes. Again, Chelsea are competing in a multitude of different competitions this season. We want to go deep in all of them. We currently sit atop the Premier League table, which we'll review in its entirety later. But for us to go the distance in all these competitions, N'Golo Kante has to stay healthy. And so Tuchel picking the matches or picking the moments when he can get away with not having to roll out N'Golo Kante to get him 45 minutes of rest, so that he potentially doesn't have to play in the midweek match versus Villa, or if we need him for 45 minutes, he essentially played 1 game instead of 2 matches over that period. And then he will be ready, hopefully, for City, because that will be a huge match as well. And so just in general, the quote from Tuchel after the match is, if you have N'Golo, you have something. everyone is looking for. You have everything you need in midfield with work rate, intensity, ball wins, skillful play, off the ball, with the ball, dribbling, and even a goal. And that just, it's like a shopping list. Like, I want to create a perfect midfielder. Check, 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 check.
Cheat
and then
code.
you just insert to the machine, and then it it kind of spat out and goal with Kante.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, Brent, his goal was a little fluky. It was a huge deflection. It's his goal, right? I mean, he was going to have it on target, no doubt. But again, it's that type of good luck is more than he deserves for the amount of work that he puts in, right? I mean, if the old quote is the harder you work, the luckier you get, then he should be having all of the luck.
They didn't close him down, though. The whole match, they left that space in front of the box open. I mean, Christensen had a shot from distance there, and, if he kind of just hooked it left or hooked it right, we might have had that goal going to talk about today. But they were letting players get so far forward and hoping that they were going to be able to withstand it. And credit, I mean, Dier, even for the deflection there, did have a moment earlier in the match where he was able to help deny the Alonso opportunity. Lloris elevates this team. If this team goes to an average Premier League goalkeeper, which Lloris is not, this team would be shipping goals right now, Brandon. Like, it's just like we very much were given the latitude, particularly in the second half, to just go do our business and have fun doing it, and it very much showed.
So not only, obviously, yes, N'Golo Kante, massive, right? Mount came off. I think there's a lot of disappointment in Mount and in Kai today, and just the lack of final play. Lukaku, really, he had to suffer all match. I mean, there was not a lot coming to him, but he still was at least putting in the effort and doing as much as he could, was always an outlet option, even if he didn't find it. But I think the biggest difference for me is that, again, it regained balance and control in the midfield. Spurs were overrunning us, the Jorginho Kova, double six in there. It just wasn't working. So my thing was like being able to like put our foot on the ball and just possess gave us such an upper hand, because then Spurs couldn't touch us. When it was frenetic and it was chaotic, they were thriving. When we got to actually play football and not just make it, a competition of athleticism, that's when we showed just how much of a higher class we are. And so I think while it didn't necessarily turn into like, much, much better attacking play, just the control is what created it, and you get goals off of set pieces today, which we haven't really seen all season, which is a huge positive. And I think that as of right now, I'm probably sitting on the fence saying we're probably only going to do 3-5-2 to maybe match a team head to head. I don't know if it's going to be what we do going forward, but it's a positive sign that at least it worked, versus maybe playing into a different formation and just being like, yeah, that wasn't it.
the other thing it allows you to do, which is I didn't see a whole lot of coverage on this, but I think it is absolutely a fact, is it allows your wing backs to really commit to go forward, because you have an extra person to cover back, and especially if that person is N'Golo Kante. I mean, like, it's wild to think of like how forward Azpilicueta was in this match. He should have had 2 or 3 assists today, by the way. He's very unlucky to not get in there, but it allowed Alonso and Azpilicueta to live in Spurs' final third in the second half, and it was crazy. It was great.
Well, just how deep Kovacic dropped to allow Alonso to basically be a forward player for the second half was quite wonderful to watch. And I know we have plenty of defensive praise to laud on some players, Brandon, but I just, to want to cap off on Nick's point there is that, the tactical change does allow for those wingers, so, those wing backs to essentially become wingers, because those midfielders can drop back and basically be an extra man in defense.
Yeah, Alonso's not trying to defend. Okay. And by the way, I was really surprised he played 3 matches in a row. So Carabao Cup, Chili B, let's see it. Have to. I know we said that 3 times this season, but we have to this time. All right, so the next one we want to touch on is the fact that the defense does it all. And we mean that today because not only did they post a shutout with our second-string goalkeeper in Kepa Arrizabalaga, also buried 2 of our 3 goals. And if we're being honest, Lukaku should have scored, Mount should have scored, Timo should have scored 2. Many players this game should have scored, but they didn't. So Squawka with the stat here saying Cesar Azpilicueta, Thiago Silva, Marcos Alonso, all 5 had more touches in the opposition box than Harry Kane, 2, during Chelsea's 3-0 win against Spurs. He still doesn't have a Premier League goal this season. Again, he came back late, contract talks, didn't get the move he wanted. I said it in the preview that he's not playing his heart out. I don't care what anyone says, including Harry himself on Twitter. He is not giving it all. But again, the fact that Aspie, Silva, and Alonso all had more touches in Spurs' box than Harry Kane had in Chelsea's box just kind of shows you. But I thought it was a little weird, Dan. Like, Kane was playing off to the left a lot today. Like, Son was the central striker. And I don't know if this is from a press or he was going to try to cut in or do something. But just from a positional sense, it seemed like Harry was fine just hanging out on the flanks.
Well, he also dropped super deep to try to win the ball off Jorginho, which is not a bad strategy, right? Because I think in general, he has been targeted, and that first half in particular, our midfield was getting cut through, and Dembele was having plenty of joy, at least moving the ball forward. And so I don't think it was a bad strategy, but Kane just doesn't look as mobile as he has previously. He looks pretty stiff as a player. And I think, as you know, there's praise for players like Lloris and the Tottenham side, but I will absolutely shit on the attackers for Tottenham because they were terrible today, and our defense was just immense. I think we have to kind of take a transitionary point here, talk about Thiago Silva, who, again, every time I talk about the fact that he is turning 37, which I am also turning this year, makes me feel very, very old to watch him to boss it at this level. It's just, I mean, the goal was great, winning headers in the box over players who were taller than him. Dele Alli got just absolutely beat in the air on that goal, Nick.
Got beat twice in the box.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. It was a kind of fine wine type of performance. Again, having the bench, and this is something we'll talk to Matt Law about this week because he tweeted it. Like, the bench of defenders to be able to rotate in and bring in this class is just, it's going to be the secret weapon this season.
Look, Dan, a little bit of yoga and you'll be fine. All right, that's all Thiago does.
This cat was by far and away the best player on the pitch today, and it wasn't close for me. He won everything. He won every header. He won every tackle. He was everywhere, and it wasn't. It was such a convincing performance for me that I was like, how is it possible that you're 37, almost 37 years old, and you're just dominating players maybe 7, 8, 9 years your junior? Like, absolutely clinical today on all accounts. And Brandon, I know there are stats here to read out, but I mean, just the eye test says it all. I mean, he was top class this year. And like, if you think about his time at Chelsea, right? He's had a couple of weird performances, right? A couple of weird ones. West Brom away last year was not great. He's had a couple this season. But when he's on, man, he's still a top 5 center back in the Premier League. And it's, I think it's pretty convincing. So for me, that's basically open and close. Absolute dominant performance.
Yeah, his ability to read, right? His spidey sense for danger and awareness. Like, he just knows if someone's gonna get in behind him, and he lays out to close that passing lane, with a tackle or whatever. So he had that scare where he stayed down for a little bit, and you're kind of like, okay, the classic, all right, what'd he pull? What did old man Silva pull? I'm like, damn it. But no, he finished the game and scored even after that or whatever. So Yash is back with some more stats. She says Thiago Silva is absolutely colossal defensively. He dealt with Son brilliantly and was an amazing threat on attacking set pieces, even scoring the opener and coming close at another time. Gargantuan performance. Again, 31 passes with a 90% pass accuracy. His territory map, like the places where he was in possession, is inside our 6 to the other side of the center circle. Mainly, really at about a 30-yard width, the entire pitch. And then his defensive action map, right? Like, he was everywhere. He was all over the pitch, like I said, offensively and defensively, getting in, trying to just put in a team performance. And, obviously him going at center pushed Christensen out right. He did just fine in the flanks. And Rüdiger continuing to prove just how damn good he is in this system on the left. You really don't have to worry about that. When the lineup came out, I was like, oh, wow, some interesting changes. Surprised to see some of the defensive lineup, but it's settled. I mean, Thiago has not skipped a beat whatsoever, and really, really excited with the performances you're getting out of him. Again, his age is getting up there. He's kind of playing beyond expectations, but his experience and how much he's taking care of himself as a professional is literally paying off with 1-year extensions and contracts. The other one that we wanted to talk about was Marcos Alonso, who
hates Tottenham.
Absolutely hates Tottenham. I mean, almost scored the goal of the season with a flying volley.
It would have been fucking epic, man.
I mean,
should have had a brace. Like,
yes.
Look, the XG will tell a different story. The watching it back, he should the fact that neither of those went in is just ludicrous to me. Like, they're clearly investigations, inquests, whatever we have to do. We have to investigate the whole of Tottenham Toilet Bowl Stadium to figure out what they're doing to that goal mouth.
They sprayed the anti-Alonso pesticide and it worked for some reason today, but thankfully it didn't cost us. But it still didn't stop him from having a massive match. I mean, Squawka broke it down with 90% pass accuracy. Again, as a wingback, right? So he's in offensive spaces. So for him to be that high, unlike Thiago Silva, where Thiago's really playing some pretty, I wouldn't say easy pass, right, but very high percentage passes. Alonso, it's trickier. He had 17 passes into the box. He had 15 crosses. One player, by the way. He had 5 touches in the Spurs box. He had 4 ball recoveries, created 4 chances, 4 interceptions, 4 duels won, 4 shots, 3 fouls won, and an assist, a man possessed in the second half. And I think, you guys said that. And Kante released the wingers to just go. And Alonso absolutely did. Did you see the shithouse moment when he got tangled up with, I think it was Royale? And then he pushed him down and then made a run into the box.
Emerson Royale ain't it, Chief.
He's wearing basketball shorts out there. What the hell is going on, man?
That dude is bad. They're in real trouble if he's there. If he's their right back solution. Ugh.
So again, Marcos Alonso just shows up against Spurs. Doesn't sit on a moment to not, just do the business. He's again also on the other side of 30. Playing really, really well this season.
Working himself into an extension. I think
he's already on a monster contract.
Yeah, didn't they sign him for 10 years a couple years ago?
That's what it felt like. I'll get the details. Keep going.
Look, in general, it's unfortunate, right? Because you brought in Ben Chilwell last season. He ended the season super strong versus Man City in the Champions League final, and then doesn't get a sniff in this team at the moment because Alonso has this incredible resurgence. And typically, we've seen it come in ebbs and flows, right? Where, it's like, oh, something happens, there's a pivotal moment, there's now a change, the regression, then there's this upswing in performance that isn't really maintained over successive number of games. But we've seen now back-to-back performances where he has been a strong contributor, not 7 or above, right? And that's really what you want all of your players to be so that you can kind of break through and have a great performance. And so, I saw people react to the lineup and they're like, oh man, free Ben Chilwell. And look, Alonso's playing out of his mind right now. It sucks for Ben, but Ben's also on a long-term contract too. So you don't have anything to worry about. He'll get worked back into the side because Tuchel's going to have to use everybody to win at every damn thing this season. So just be patient. It's going to be okay. Chilly's going to get his opportunities, but be excited that if Chile were to come in and get injured, we know that Alonso is playing form of his life type of football right now. It's not a bad problem to have. This is a great problem to have.
He's got 2 years left on his contract, so summer of 23. So he's still got a little bit of time. Look, okay, it doesn't stop there. Obviously, Marcos from a stats perspective being big, but Nick, Aspi everywhere battling. Rüdiger getting his goal. I already talked on Christensen a little bit, but Rüdiger, I mean, we were ready to part ways with him under Lampard in a 4-back system, switch to this 3-back, and I mean, absolutely revitalized. I mean, people are starting to say Real Madrid were looking at him, which, okay, whatever. We're one of the biggest clubs in the world, so I'm not worried about that. But it's he's an absolute starter for Germany. His stock has risen so much in the last not even 12 months, really, since Tuchel's came in.
Yeah, we'll talk to Matt Law about his looming contract issues this week. So bet your bottom dollar on that. But yeah, I mean, like he played another great game. Was covering all over the place. Recovered their only real shot at goal. So that was pretty cool. And then Aspi, wingback Aspi. The guy that couldn't play wingback or shouldn't be on the team anymore. Do you guys remember that guy? He somehow was not good enough to play for Chelsea. Boy, did he look good today again for the 10th straight year at Chelsea. So I don't know, man. I just think these guys are in such a rhythm and they clearly trust each other on the pitch. We know that N'Golo Kante opened up a lot more options in the second half because it was better. But, Aspi could have had 3 assists today going forward. A guy who can't pass the ball. I don't know. He looked pretty convincing to me. Christensen could have had a goal today. I mean, like our defense attacked to the Tinkerman note from a couple of weeks ago, Dan. I mean, you guys absolutely nailed that. They're progressing the ball forward like crazy right now.
Center backs and Cruyff turns. Tell me a better duo right now. I kind of tweeted that.
It's so funny when, for so long we've tried to break away from this idea of having a really strong defense to play attractive football or to be Man City light, and it just hasn't worked. Like every time a coach has come in and tried to do that, I mean, outside of the first half of the 14-15 when Fabregas and Costa were lighting up together with and like, yes, that was great. It was wonderful. This is football I can totally get behind. This is a Chelsea identity, trademark it, registered copyright. This is us shithousing our way to a title, and I cannot be more delighted that our defense is so rock solid that we can win. Like we'd have gone in this game 70, 80 minutes in 0-0, and I probably would have been pretty confident that we would have had a 1 goal kind of just pop in because everyone's contributing. 11 players have scored this season. 11. It's great.
Yeah, and I would quickly add to that. After the match, Arlo White asked Lee Dixon, he's like, "Hey man, does this remind you of your like best Arsenal sides, including the Invincibles?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "They don't look like conceding ever." Like, there have been a handful of moments. Obviously, Villa pressed that button a couple of times last week to try and test old Edouard, but the whole commentary after the match was just so aligned around Chelsea's defensive structure and identity. And 2 shots on goal. 2 shots on goal against Kepa. Good luck. I don't know.
2 shots on goal. You need to have like a 50% shot conversion for your team on average. And like the best teams are in the low 30s. And so if you're just thinking about the types of teams that we go to play who do shoot a lot, but don't always get on target because that's what this defense does. It limits the shots on target. You would take shots, but there's almost always a body in the way. There's someone to defend it out. There's someone to make a last-ditch tackle. The Andres Christensen one in like the very beginning of the match where he saved it because that could have completely turned the tide of this type of match. Like we do not give up shots, high-quality shots, and that is infuriating. So every 10 minutes that go by that a team doesn't score, like they have to make the next shot's more important.
Pressure.
I think that the psychological element, like we haven't talked about that, the psychological element of not being able to get shots on target and then to know that every next shot has to have a higher need to go in than what your average is or what an average is crazy. I just can't even think about what it's like to play against this team. I would not want to do it.
I would also say too, Dan, to your point, like, yeah, Chelsea tried this high possession football thing for a while, right? I mean, we tried to emulate everyone who wasn't us for a long time. Other teams are looking at us and are jealous as fuck right now. And it's not because we're playing the most attractive football. It's because we play effective football and we don't concede goals. Like, how many teams in the Premier League would pay $1 bajillion to not concede goals? All of them. All of them would. And so I think I think this narrative has to change that, like, Chelsea are a team that should be emulated across Europe. Like, this is so impressive. Not just the Champions League performance last year, which of course it was. We've conceded 14 goals in 15 Premier League games under Tuchel or whatever.
And 1 goal this season, and that goal was a penalty. Not
from open play, none. So I don't know. I want to start this bandwagon for play like Chelsea because this is so impressive.
So us, Liverpool, and Manchester City have all conceded 1 this season, and obviously us and Liverpool conceded in the same match. Mm-hmm. So again, ours was also not a penalty.
We're also running through a tougher slate of opposition. Just sort of
without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Away matches, then like. I actually think that this is setting us up very nicely for like having home matches when we're potentially deeper in the Champions League. Like I don't know. I'm feeling really good about it, Brandon.
It's the best possible start. Get through City, and then it'll really be a statement to the league of Chelsea's intentions. So real quick, I just want to touch on Kepa and just give a footnote to say, yeah, he only had 2 saves today, but claimed a cross, which apparently almost took him out of the match. But hey, still did it. It's just a good confidence booster for him as well. Again, as we're going to fight for all these trophies, we're going to need him throughout the season. And while I'm not saying that he needs to be challenging Mendy for minutes, this was a confidence booster because this wasn't a cup game against a championship side. This was against a London rival in the Premier League when we needed points. And he got us through it and got a clean sheet. So while it was a team effort to get there, he's going to take a ton of confidence out of it, which I thought was good.
Well, we'll see him on Wednesday, too. I mean,
yeah, most likely.
Mendy's not going to play in the League Cup, and we need him to be sharp. Like, there are too many. It wouldn't shock me if he played the Club World Cup either, frankly. I think all that is on the table for him. And it was no surprise to me that Tuchel, being the genius that he is, went over to him first after we won today and congratulated him because, I mean, they were evaluating Mendy as late as yesterday to see if he was going to be able to go. And if he's hurt, he can't go. So, good for Kepa, man.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and hit that patented Dan of the match here. I gave a cheeky tweet, but I gave a quote retweet, put it out there.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I know, it's a part of what we do here. It's the Dan of the match. And look, I think it could have been the whole team. I could have had fun putting Thomas Tuchel in there, but the players' performances were so incredible. I did not want to muddy the result, as it were, with a funky write-in candidate. But Thiago Silva at 81% might be the most surefire 4-person winner we've had in quite some time. And then N'Golo Kante at 9%, impressive on a 45-minute performance. Alonso with 7%, and then Rüdiger with 3%.
All right.
They got this one right.
They got this one right. That's good. I'm glad. Thanks.
Easy up. All right. So the league table as it stands, I believe all matches are played. So we're good. No Monday match this weekend. I guess Chelsea were the headliner. So Chelsea actually are top of the table. And did you guys hear Rebecca Lowe explain why? It's because our head-to-head with Liverpool, we drew as the away team. So therefore it's a tiebreaker. So
that's how tight it is right now.
Yeah. And it's not alphabetical. All right. We're not playing the Arsenal card at the beginning of the season. So Chelsea are emphatically in first, 13 points. All right. Plus 11 goal difference, in good form. Liverpool second, exact same, 13 points plus 11 goal difference. So it was really important we got that third goal from Rüdiger today as well. Manchester United are also on 13 points plus 9, and Brighton in fourth on 12 points. City on 10.
The mighty goals.
Everton in sixth on 10. And Tottenham in seventh on 9th. And then at the bottom, it's still kind of the same old Norwich winless, no points at all this season. They are in 0 points in last place. Burnley on 1 point in 19th, and Newcastle on 2 points in 18th. That's starting to take shape as well. But
don't look now, but Leicester City are not having a good year.
Sure aren't.
And they're struggling in a way that I did not anticipate. But Brighton squarely beat them today.
Three losses in their opening 5.
Brighton's curse of the underperformance of XG last season has reversed itself, and now they are the overperform of XG, and so that is going to be fun to watch. The other thing, Arsenal could go level on points with Tottenham. They're behind for goal difference if they were to win their derby, which takes place next weekend.
Yeah, the most overhyped.
Crazy how quickly that has changed.
The most overhyped derby, the North London derby. It means fuck all.
The mid-table matchup of the week.
God. Brentford, right square in the middle of it, doing well in their promotion battle. Leeds struggling massively as well. Leeds have not won a match yet this season.
Brentford are staying up this year, man. They are structurally sound, whereas you look at some of these teams below, man, Leeds struggling, Wolves struggling, Southampton struggling. Like, I mean, I would not be shocked if Brentford was closer to middle table than bottom table at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think a lot of our predictions are going to fall pretty flat on that one without Norwich. Billy G, keep it up, boss. You keep pulling the strings, but...
The loan actually is looking to be very terrible at this point.
If he gets a lot of minutes, though. A lot of minutes.
Minutes on a team that's going to get relegated and get...
Hey, work for Connor at West Brom.
Look, if their form doesn't change, I would be very concerned.
Didn't work for Ruben at Fulham.
West Brom still found a way to find some results. We're looking at a Norwich City side that's lost 5 in a row and has shipped 12 goals, allowed 14 goals and only scored 2. So I don't know. I'm a little concerned.
Understandable. Very, very much understandable. All right, well, that's going to wrap up the match review part. But hey, don't leave, all right? Nick sat down again with the Chelsea historian Rick Glanville and friend of the pod to talk about Jimmy Greaves and what that was. Nick, quick promo.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard us talk to Rick before. The man is a fountain of knowledge. He's actually interviewed Jimmy a number of times and kind of recounts his experience in talking to Jimmy Greaves, who, by every account of which we get into in very short order, is a legend, a Chelsea legend, a footballing legend. Rick even compares him to Messi at one point, so stick around for that. And yeah, rest in peace, Jimmy Greaves. Tough day, really tough day.
All right. Well, go ahead and enjoy that. And like I said, we'll be back tomorrow with the Matt Law episode. So, yeah, off to Nick and Rick.
Well, hey, we have Rick Glanville, Chelsea's historian, joining us at the end of the show because a bit of sad news, Rick, end the day today. Chelsea lost an absolute Stonewall legend this weekend when Jimmy Greaves passed away at the age of 81. To be fair, he's had a fair amount of health struggles, but this still sent a shockwave throughout the footballing world, and specifically the Chelsea and Tottenham world, which was kind of ironic that they faced off this weekend. Can you maybe just give a quick overview on who Jimmy Greaves was and what he meant to Chelsea Football Club?
Yeah, sure. Simply put, although he was before my time, I watched him when he was playing for other clubs like Tottenham and West Ham, and also he played for England. I was too young to see him playing for Chelsea because he left in 1961. But as the club historian, I know, talking to older, more experienced and supporters, that he is probably the best ever product from our youth system. And he was certainly the first great star to emerge from that scheme, which was set up in 1948. And Jimmy was recruited. The kind of, we talk about legends, and legends suddenly, little anecdotes and stories tend to attach themselves. They're magnetically drawn to people like Jimmy Greaves. And so there's a kind of a creation myth almost with him, in that Chelsea lost 6-5 to Manchester United at home in 1955. Seamus O'Connell scored a hat-trick for us. And Chelsea were downhearted, and Ted Drake, who was the manager at the time, received a call from a scout called Jimmy Thompson, who recruited people like Bobby Tambling and Ron Harris and Terry Venable, some of these really iconic figures, and also Jimmy Greaves, because Jimmy Thompson said, "How did the game go?" Ted Drake says, "Oh, we lost 6-5. He said, "Don't worry, boss. I think I've just seen the best footballer ever." And he'd just been scouting Jimmy Greaves in 1955. And Jimmy Thompson, with this brilliant scout, convinced the family that Jimmy, who was from the East End of London, and Chelsea, of course, is on the other side of the city in West London, convinced this 15, 16-year-old to join Chelsea Juniors, and he was absolutely phenomenal. In his last game playing for our youth team, he scored 114 goals in one season. Now, just think about that. Our 114 goals. Our top scorer last season in the Premier League scored 6. I think he was, wasn't it, Jorginho?
Seven, Rick. Come on. Come on.
I should have known that. I'm talking about penalties. No, I'm joking. But 114 goals in one season. So inevitably, that was 1956, 57. Yep. So the clamour for him to be playing for the first team was enormous. He made his debut. You said it's ironic we played Tottenham today. There's a further coincidence in that Jimmy made his debut against Tottenham at White Hart Lane and scored the equalising goal aged 17. After that, I mean, really, it's just a kind of litany of record-breaking statistics. He's still the quickest player to score 100 goals in the English Football League. That's the old Division 1 and the new Premier League. He still holds the record for goals in one season for Chelsea Football Club. That's 43. And he and his strike partner, Ron Tyndall, another youth product, in 1960-61, scored 59 goals. And 43 of those were scored by Jimmy Greaves. No one knew what foot he played with. He was that good. He was that natural. Was it his left foot he favoured or his right foot? I was asked this question this morning on the BBC. I was on BBC News talking about him. And the interviewer said, people talk about a natural goal scorer. What does that actually mean? And I think for people that haven't grown up watching football their entire lives, it is a good question. And it made me think, what was it about him that made him, that everyone said was a natural goal scorer? And I think it's that he was off the cuff, intuitive, that he didn't look drilled, like it didn't look like he was an automaton going through the motions. He never ran, he drifted. He would just drift past players, dribble past them. He never really struck a ball really hard. He sort of dressed it, stroked it into the either corner, watched where the goalkeeper was going. I mean, I think in the modern era, different player, but similarities with Messi in terms of drifting and being so in command of the ball that they could, that in front of goal, there was just nothing the goalkeeper could do. They would just find that gap. And so really, he scored 132 goals in 169 appearances for Chelsea Football Club, which you think, I think that's like a goal every 1.25 games or something like that. Just phenomenal scoring rates. His final match, the big problem and what people may not understand in the States is that in the that era, 60, 61, there was a salary cap. Now, I know you have salary caps in America, but at that time in 1960, 61, it was felt to be, it was squeezing the life out of football in England, particularly when you had Italian leagues, French leagues, who didn't have a salary cap and so could offer talented players more remuneration. So this is a star player at Chelsea. As I said, he had this phenomenal goal-scoring record. And the car that he drove, the accelerator cable had broken, so he had string running from the accelerator cable to the engine, and that would break every now and then. It had a hole in the car in its base, so that if he was carrying passengers, and because he was the only one with a car at Chelsea, he used to drive people like Terry Venables and Ron Tyndall and other people to and from games. And Terry Venables always said that he couldn't understand, the first time he went in the car, they went over a puddle and all the other passengers lifted their feet off the ground. And it was because the water just went in and they got wet feet. So you can imagine he wanted to better himself. He wasn't content with earning with the cap salary, and so he left us in 1961 to go to Milan, where he wasn't happy, but he was successful and he earned a good wage. And the real tragedy is that in the interim period, the salary cap was got rid of in England. And when I spoke to Greaves, he always said that had the salary cap not been in place, and if they'd upped his wages, he would have stayed at Chelsea his entire career, because he actually absolutely loved playing at Stamford Bridge. And of course, he went to Milan, and he was chaired off in his last game against Nottingham Forest when he scored another hatful of goals. And there's a commentary on a piece of Pathé News. You know, I'm sure your listeners are all used to that. Terribly British Pathé News. And here comes Jimmy Greaves. And it said at the end, well, then Jimmy Greaves is now off to Milan. And you have to say, you fear for Chelsea now. And of course, without his goals, we were relegated the following season. And Chelsea supporters watched green-eyed as he came back from Milan, went to Tottenham and excelled, played okay at West Ham. But fundamentally, it's a case of what might have been had we managed to hold on to him. And I'm sorry for talking for so long on that, but he is close to my heart.
No, I mean, that's exactly why we wanted to have you on. You are the expert. I mean, a couple other quick stats here, just so that people understand how prolific he was. He had 13 hat tricks in 4 seasons for Chelsea.
Yes, just astonishing.
I mean, really, his hat trick against City on November 19th was his 100th league goal. Of course, you mentioned that he was the youngest player to pass that 100-goal mark.
20 years old.
Yeah. I mean, just short of his 21st birthday. It's absolutely crazy. In addition to the 114 goals he scored in the 56-57 youth season, he also scored 51 the year before. I mean, it's just...
It's breathtaking, isn't it? It's unfathomable that someone could be so prolific. And we have to have so much pride that he came through the Chelsea system. He was schooled in the Chelsea way. And he's an absolute icon of Chelsea Football Club. And I know that lots of people associate him more perhaps with Tottenham Hotspur, but not anyone who watched him play for Chelsea knows that that's where he cut his teeth. That's where he was at his best and most prolific. And we absolutely adore him. And it's so sad that he's now gone.
I mean, it also ties into, I think, one of the most famous quotes in the footballing world, which is, it's probably the greatest name in the world, Chelsea. You think about it, it conjures up the best part of the biggest city in the world, Chelsea. It's magical. That was my interview in 1995. And I sat down with him and he was telling me all these brilliant anecdotes and incredible stories about what it was like to play for that team, because him and Ron Tinder would sort of be scoring at one end, and the other end they were conceding even more goals than they were scoring. So it was a bit depressing for him in some respects. And he said Ted Drake, who was obviously the manager when we won the league in 1954-55, had become a bit otherworldly, and he had no tactics whatsoever. The only tactical instruction he gave was, as the players ran out, Ted Drake would say to them all the best, and that was it. All the best. No, watch out for the left back, he might cut inside, and I want you to push on, and, try and we'll have a double pivot at midfield, just all the best. And Jimmy always maintained that if Chelsea had had a different manager to Ted, maybe Billy Nicholson, who was the Tottenham manager, or he mentioned a couple of other candidates, that he always maintained that with the squad that we had, and with a better tactician, we probably would have won the league again in the late 50s, maybe 60. And another really funny quote. I mean, he's a big character, Jimmy, especially as he became a broadcaster later in his career, right?
Absolutely right.
Yeah. So he said, I had a goal drought once. Worst 15 minutes of my career that was. I mean, it basically sums it up because the math would tell you, Rick, just with the amount of goals he scored for Chelsea and in the rest of his career, you had to go just minutes between goals, basically, while he was at Chelsea. I mean, it's astonishing to think about 114 goals at youth level in one season. I don't even know how to comprehend that, frankly.
You can't, can you? Really, it's like a machine gun. But I think the interesting thing was as well that lots of supporters would say if Jimmy didn't have a good first half, Ted Drake will give him a rocket at half time and whatever. And he would come out and immediately score 2 or 3 goals, almost like because he could, not because he was holding back, but he'd become interested. He was cajoled into it, and he could do that. That's the measure. It was like that quote. It's magical. He was a magician. That's the thing. He was able to conjure stuff that other people wouldn't. There's a lovely anecdote that Frank Blunstone told me about when Jimmy was still playing for the youth team, the Chelsea Juniors, and Ted Drake would occasionally invite promising youngsters to train on a Friday afternoon at Stamford Bridge with the first teamers. And you'd have his trainer, Albert Tennant, with a big megaphone, one of those cone things, screaming out instructions. And one day, Jimmy Greaves was invited along to participate for the first time. And Frank Blunstone says, Albert Tennant saw him get the ball and dribble past one of our first team players. And he's saying, "Yep, get rid of it, Jim." And then he beat another player. "Jim, get rid of it." Another player, "Jim, get rid." And then beats another player, puts it in the net. And he runs over to Albert Tennant and said, "Albert, you didn't say when to get rid."
A little cheeky, one might say, Rick.
Well, I think that's, he definitely had that. Anyone who saw him in his later incarnation as a comedic turn TV pundit with a show called Saint and Greavesy with Ian St. John as his straight man, if you like, knows that, yes, he had a twinkle in his eye. And I think actually that's something that he showed on the pitch. If someone tried to kick him, he would definitely want to embarrass them. He'd slip the ball through their legs and show them that it's not gentlemanly to try and kick him up in the air. But just to say that also that I was there today at the game, and there was lots made of Jimmy's passing, and before the game there was a celebratory applause for him from both sets of supporters. And at half-time again, there were some interviews and they talked about his record at Chelsea and at Tottenham. And you have to say that if there's... he's had lots of achievements in his life, Jimmy Greaves, but the fact that he could bring together, he could unite Chelsea and Tottenham fans in one stadium is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it was a rare moment of alignment between those two fan bases today. And I kind of want to just finish up by talking about his legacy, Rick. I mean, I've been looking through all of the materials that have been printed today, and I'm sure you know even more than I do. But is it safe to say that he is the most prolific English goal scorer ever?
He is officially, and certainly you'd have to be. It would take a strong man to think that you would. That record of being the youngest centurion in English football in the league would ever be broken. I mean, as we were saying, short of his 21st birthday. So I think there are statistical legacies. On top of that, there's the heritage of him being one of the greatest ever products of our youth system. And if you put him into context with the likes of Andreas Christensen, John Terry, Ray Wilkins, so many others, Reece James, all sorts of Mason Mount, all sorts of brilliant youngsters, they can draw on the fact that one of the greatest constellations in the English football firmament was bred at Chelsea, from Chelsea's youth system. So that's quite something to look at that and see the continuity of that line and the fact that that's still shining now, 60, 70 years on.
Yeah, in addition to all of that, he's England's fourth highest international goal scorer. He is the highest goal scorer in the English top flight with 357 goals, which is crazy. He scored more hat tricks for England than anyone else. He finished as the first division's top scorer in 6 seasons, and he's a member of the English Football Hall of Fame. I mean, all of this to say, Rick, that this is a true legend of the game.
Absolutely right.
And, should be celebrated as such. I mean, I guess my final question to you before I get your final thoughts would be, given his profile, is it likely that we see some sort of statue at Stamford Bridge dedicated to him in the future?
That's a question. I mean, there's, we unfortunately, there are practical considerations on this, in that the real estate around Stamford Bridge is quite limited. Mm-hmm. So every statue that you put up, I was involved in the Peter Osgood statue, and there's like an exclusion zone that has to go up around for health and safety reasons around any statue. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have one, but there isn't one for Peter Bonetti, for example, and there are plenty of people going forward that would be good candidates for that. So do you want Stamford Bridge to be like like Rome, with statues everywhere, or should we have some kind of other purpose-built wall of fame, wall of commemoration, where all of these brilliant players can be commemorated appropriately? And I think at the moment it's too soon to say that you'd have a statue to him. And I think you would also say, Tottenham would probably want to have a statue as well. I think it's too soon to say. Let's let the dust settle. Let's savor his contribution. Let's appreciate what he contributed to the game, and then let's see how things unfold in the future.
Final note before I let you have your final thought, actually, is Thomas Tuchel did pay tribute to him today before the game, which is, I understood clearly that we were speaking of a legend in a Chelsea shirt and a Tottenham shirt. He was a huge goal scorer in the country, so we have the biggest respect and send all the best wishes to his family today. I mean, it's the right thing to say, obviously, and it's a sad day, but you're doing a great job of conjuring up these memories, which will live on regardless of his kind of physical being here, Rick. So I will give the floor to you to kind of round this tribute out.
Well, all I'd say is it's a shame that Cover didn't score, because it would have been nice to see a number 8 score today, given that was mostly the shirt that Jimmy Greaves wore. But what I would say is, he's someone we should be immensely proud of. He's someone that is at the heart of Chelsea Football Club. He created records that will last perhaps for eternity, and he got a great send-off, and I'm sure he would have liked the result today. I don't care what Tottenham fans say.
Well, that is perfect. Rick, thank you so much for taking the time out today. I know you're a busy man and you're in demand, but we will talk to you very soon. All right, buddy? Look
after yourselves.
All right. Take care, Rick.
Speak soon. Cheers. Bye.
All right. Again, huge shout out to Rick and Nick for doing that. You guys should look into becoming a duo. But go thank Rick, please, on social media, right? He's on Twitter. Go let him know you appreciated him sharing the knowledge. Like I said, he sat down, Nick, right after the Spurs match. He was there and, post pub decided to sit down with you. So he made time for us on his weekend.
He was also on the BBC today. I think he was on one of the talk radio shows too. I mean,
just our peers.
Doing the rounds.
Look, we're just all part of the same group. So, Rick's the best. I cannot wait to have a beer with him when we go back over.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up, Chelsea fans. Again, remember, Matt Law tomorrow. Thank you for the support. Be smug. Be enjoyable with this victory. Spurs, they're just a little club in North London. So that's going to wrap it up. Until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.